Golden Retriever saves falling baby in the most incredible way. Hey there, beautiful souls. Your support absolutely lights up my world. That little subscribe button, it's pure magic for growing our cozy community and bringing you more heartwarming stories. Here's my favorite part. I personally read and reply to every comment. So drop a line below and tell me where you're watching from. I'm genuinely excited to connect with you. Ready for today's extraordinary tale? Let's dive in together. The baby's chubby fingers gripped tufts of golden fur as he hoisted himself onto the retriever's broad back, his white onesie bunching at the knees. Elena's coffee cup rattled against its saucer as she set it down with trembling hands. Elena, he's doing it again. Mark's voice carried the weight of a conversation they'd had dozens of times before. The living room felt smaller somehow, the afternoon light streaming through the windows, casting everything in an amber glow that made the scene appear almost surreal. Their son squealed in triumph, bouncing gently on his chosen throne. The retriever's golden coat rippled like liquid metal beneath the baby's weight, but the dog remained motionless, save for the occasional flick of an ear. He thinks the dog is a chair. This isn't funny, Mark. Elena's words came out sharper than she intended, but the knot of anxiety in her chest had been growing tighter with each passing day. Mark rubbed his temple, fighting the smile that tugged at his lips as their boy clapped his hands and babbled with pure joy. The sound filled the room like music, a melody they'd rarely heard in recent months. I'm not laughing, but... His voice trailed off as he watched the baby lean forward to pat the dog's head, his small palm barely covering the space between the retriever's gentle eyes. Stop smiling. Elena's arms crossed defensively over her chest, her knuckles white. Do you realize how dangerous this is? One tug too hard, one kick, and that dog could turn on him. The retriever yawned, his pink tongue curling as the baby drummed tiny fists against his ribs. Mark crouched down, studying the scene with new intensity. The dog's eyes held a patience that seemed almost human, watchful and aware. He hasn't even growled. Look at him, he's letting it happen. No teeth, no snarling, just patience. Patience runs out. Elena's voice cracked like a whip through the warm air. You want to gamble with your son's face? With his life? Mark's jaw clenched, the muscle twitching beneath his skin. I want him to stop screaming. Elena, he hasn't stopped crying in months, except when he's with the dog. The baby stuck his tongue out, mimicking the retriever's panting expression. When the dog's tail gave a single, lazy thump against the hardwood floor, the child burst into delighted laughter that seemed to bounce off the walls. Elena's shoulders sagged. He should be laughing. Single-minded determination. Mrs. Carter's disapproving face appeared at the kitchen window regularly now, her lips pressed into a thin line of judgment. The weight of neighborhood whispers settled on Elena's shoulders like a heavy cloak, making her cheeks burn with shame. Days blended into one another, marked by the sound of small hands slapping against golden fur and Elena's increasingly desperate attempts to redirect their son's attention. But each intervention ended the same way, wailing protests that turned his face red and made his whole body shake until she surrendered and watched him crawl back to his chosen seat. He's chosen, Mark muttered one evening, his voice barely audible over the baby's contented babbling. Doesn't matter what we think, that dog's his throne. A throne? Elena's face flushed crimson. He's not a prince, Mark. He's a baby, and that's an animal, not a piece of furniture. The words hung in the air, heavy with all the fear and frustration that had been building between them. Outside, the sun was setting, painting their living room in shades of gold that made the retriever's coat seem to glow. The baby had settled into a comfortable position, his small body rising and falling with the dog's steady breathing. Time seemed suspended in those moments. The soft tick of the wall clock, the distant sound of traffic, the baby's occasional gurgle of contentment. Elena found herself watching despite her fears, noting how the dog's ears perked up at every sound the child made, how his dark eyes never strayed far from the small passenger on his back. Then it happened. The baby shifted, his grip on the fur loosening as he reached for something beyond his range. Elena saw it unfold as if in slow motion, the tiny hands losing their hold, the small body tilting sideways toward the unforgiving hardwood floor. Her gasp caught in her throat as she lunged forward, knowing she was too far away, too slow. But the retriever moved first, not with the sudden jerk of a startled animal, but with deliberate, careful precision. His body curved, his broad flank sliding beneath the falling child like a golden cushion. The baby landed softly against warm fur instead of cold wood, his surprised giggle filling the silence that had gripped the room. Elena's hand flew to her mouth, her breath coming in short gasps. Did you see that?" Mark's voice emerged as a whisper, thick with emotion. He caught him. The baby seemed to think it was all part of an elaborate game, clapping his hands and bouncing with renewed energy. The retriever's tongue swept across the child's cheek in what could only be described as a kiss before the dog settled back into his patient stillness. "Mark, that wasn't chance." Elena's words trembled in the quiet room. He knew. All this time. Mark sank onto the couch, his legs suddenly unsteady. "I thought he was just tolerating it, but he wasn't. He was protecting him, adjusting, watching, making sure he's safe." The realization hit them both like a physical weight. Every shift of the dog's body, every repositioning when the baby leaned too far, it hadn't been coincidence. It had been guardianship. "He doesn't see him as a burden," Mark whispered, his voice filled with wonder. "He sees him as his own." Elena's eyes filled with tears that caught the dying light from the window. "All my warnings, all my fears, and the truth is he's safer with that dog than anywhere else." The baby let out a contented sigh, his eyelids growing heavy as he nestled deeper into the retriever's fur. The dog's steady breathing created a gentle rhythm, a living lullaby that seemed to calm both child and parents. Elena knelt beside them, her hand hovering uncertainly before settling on the retriever's head. His ears were silk beneath her fingers, warm and soft. The dog's eyes met hers briefly, a look that seemed to acknowledge her acceptance, before returning to his vigil over the drowsing child. "We didn't just get a pet," Mark said, his voice breaking with the weight of understanding. "We got a guardian." The room fell in peaceful quiet, broken only by the soft sounds of a baby's sleepy breathing and the steady thump of a loyal heart beating beneath golden fur. In that moment, Elena finally understood what she had been seeing all along. Not a child treating an animal like furniture, but a family choosing each other in the most profound way possible. The last rays of sunlight slanted through the window, illuminating the scene like a painting. A sleeping child cradled by a gentle giant whose patient love had proven stronger than all their fears combined.